yeah, how did you, with the business, how it started and everything, what were the initial kind of pain points that people might have had that you had to learn to pivot with?
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that comes to mind is the biggest barriers in people feeling comfortable, both if they're approaching someone for support or and I see that as akin to that admitting that they're struggling,
Yeah.
no matter where that is on that fertility to parenthood continuum. And shame and guilt really are the two big obstacles in people being able to come forward. They feel they're going to be judged. So when we're talking about comfortable, that is right up there as the barrier that we need to break down really right from the beginning. And that could be from the very initial email or phone call or whatever. But I would say it starts even before that, because we do a lot of blogging. We've got a strong social media presence on pretty much every platform that I've ever heard of,
Yeah.
and some that I'm still learning. But and it is actually at that point that we want to help people feel comfortable. So part of it is actually about normalizing their fears and anxieties, so that they don't feel, my goodness, I've got no right to feeling like I'm feeling. Um, yeah.
So yeah, because there's something that is still kind of rattling around in my head that you said about shame and guilt. And now, obviously, because I've never had some, I don't have children. It's not something I wanted to pursue. Why, like, why would? Yeah, sorry, I don't even know how to ask the question without sounding really clumsy. But why would somebody feel shame or guilt about wanting children?
Okay. So it could be anything from, and bearing in mind we're in the context as well of being therapists
Yeah,
for
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
the years that we have. So I think it's kind of going to cover that plus the specialist service. When someone is pursuing a particular life plan, so let's think about we're talking about the aspect of whether or not to have children. You have got, many people do feel shame and guilt around that, the potential thought around how society feels about your decision consciously to decide whether to have children or not. So if I can use the example of you, sometimes even at that point, you can get individuals who are feeling shame and guilt that,
yeah. Now like that context behind it. Yeah, people do. I do get judged because I've never wanted children. Yeah,
absolutely. And actually, you've made a really good point that sometimes there is judgment out there. It's unfair, of course,
I'm
and
thick
part of.
skinned, so I just think, oh, okay.
Exactly, exactly. But as you can imagine, someone that maybe already has low self-esteem or low self-value or feels not good
Yeah,
enough, they can feel not only are they being judged by everyone for everything, and so there's a lot of kind of imagining people are judging when they're not. And also, as you quite rightly said, if you do come across judgment, no matter how unfair, that it's taken on board that, if you like, that somehow I'm bad, I'm wrong. Hence the shame, because shame is a very internalized process of people feeling actually there's something wrong with me, essentially, that something wrong with my decision making, with my attitudes in life, with my capabilities. And so it can attack the very core of our identity. And please do not get me wrong, when we're talking about that conscious decision to have children or not, we're not saying that everyone feels this, but very often we get people approaching us that are really struggling with that decision,
it,
even when it's a decision that's
no,
right for
because
them.
yeah, because that there is something that you said then again, which I can understand that comes across as confusing because, like I said, I find it amusing that people judge me because I've never wanted children, but it doesn't bother me.
Yes.
However, because I'm openly or outwardly confident, I have quite a thick skin. But one of the things you and I were talking about pre starting the podcast was I know Caroline Kavanagh because she's my therapist. So I do
Mm-hmm.
still have sort of traumas or issues that when they get on top of me, I seek help from Caroline.
Yes.
So Caroline is my go-to person but
Mm-hmm.
in other areas of my life, No, it's everything is water off a duck back. But then, like you mentioned about something to do with self-esteem and stuff. There are areas in my life where that's been a struggle. So I reached out. I sought help through Caroline, and yes. So now that you and I have this conversation, I'm starting to see like all these pieces of the jigsaw puzzle where you can be perfectly healthy, look like you're having the ideal life, and then you make a very important life decision. Like, actually, I've met somebody, we're going to have kids, and then it all comes tumbling down.
Sure, sure. What's really interesting is we often see those two obstacles. And again, bearing in mind, we started talking about people feeling comfortable,
Yeah,
feeling safe, if you like, is that we see that again, even where on the fertility aspect, if people have decided that that is for them, that they do want to have children, that one or other of those people involved, and we certainly see people for single person IVF, so there isn't always two people involved. But we know that for the reproductive system to work, we need a healthy response from mind and body, so that actually you can subconsciously block fertility. So imagine if we get to that point where you have made a decision that that's what you want to do. Sometimes it may be, if we're back to that self-esteem, someone who actually they want children, but deep down they actually feel that they're not going to be a good parent. Maybe they had experienced themselves of less than ideal parenting, and so there's a feeling of that they won't have the competence, the skills. Sometimes it can be that someone has suffered a loss in the past. So that may be a direct loss around conceiving and fertility, like a miscarriage, or that they've lost a child. So there may be a subconscious protection. So this could be someone that's already made that decision and is still feeling that shame and or guilt, because guilt is about what we feel we do out there, if you like, what we do, what we say, how we interact with the world. So shame and guilt are very closely related, but they are different. And so often we can actually see people that have no evidenced issue with actually conceiving. They've had every medical test known to man, and there is nothing physiologically wrong, but their subconscious is actually blocking even that process. So again, you get those uncomfortable, if you like, emotions coming in there.
I think people don't quite realize that just that the subconscious controls everything. It doesn't matter if a blood test or a scan shows that everything is fine. That's not how the body works. If your subconscious switches something off, it's off. And no amount of pills, no amount of vitamins, supplements, prodding by the doctor is going to change that. If when your subconscious says that's not going to work because we need to sort something out, it doesn't work until the subconscious is, I suppose, satisfied that the problem's been resolved. So because people don't realize that